Alright everyone, now in this video I'm actually going to do a musical recap of everything that I did that was music related that I've either watched or actively participated this year. So, throughout the year 2025. So, let's start off at the beginning of the year. So, at the very beginning of the year, back in January of 2025, it was on January 9th, 2025, to be exact. That's when I had the most exciting day ever. Because on that day, I have gotten a brand new yet silver Yamaha YBB 105 B flat tuba that was 3/4 sized. I tested it out and it was wonderful. And then the next month, in February 2025, I did my very first orchestra show with my brand new Yamaha YBB 105 silver 3/4 size B flat tuba. Of course, I've participated and attended the orchestra last year, but in the very first year that I have attended it, in 2024, I still use my old tuba. But then it wasn't until 2025 when I got my brand new silver YBB 105 Yamaha 3/4 size B flat tuba, and ever since I got the brand new one, I've since brought the new one to orchestra rehearsals and shows. In fact, the very first show that I brought my brand new Yamaha YBB 105 3/4 size B flat tuba that was silver was the Valentine's Day Symphony Swing Show. Of course, y'all know me. I play tuba in the orchestra, and that's because I have played it for literally a decade. I first played it when I was in the second half of 8th grade when I was in concert band. And then it wasn't until I was in high school that I started playing it full time. Because in 8th grade, I alternated between baritone horn and tuba. And it wasn't until I was a freshman in high school that I started playing tuba full time. And then I continued to play it throughout my sophomore and junior years. And then after that, I stopped playing music for a while until 2024, when I participated and got and was very excited to be a brand new member of the orchestra that I really wanted to go to. But the first time I've watched the orchestra was in 2022, but that was before I became a member back in 2024. And then I brought my brand new tuba to the orchestra shows this year. So January was when I got my brand new Yamaha YBB 105 B flat tuba. February was the first month of 2025 that I brought it to future orchestra shows. And then in May of 2025, I participated in another show with the same orchestra that I've attended and played tuba in that show as well, once again with the new tuba that I've gotten in January this year, and it was called The Symphony Goes West. Then in the early summer of 2025, late June and early July, we did a rehearsal for the Independence Day show with the same orchestra that I've attended, played tuba in that show. In early July, that was when we did the actual show. For the Independence Day concert. And then in August, I actually went to go to a music festival to watch a different orchestra. And there were a whole bunch of instruments there. I believe there were some brass instruments, like I believe there were some trumpets and French horns and trombones. And I think there was a tuba player as well. Yeah, there was a tuba player. And there were some woodwinds like flutes, clarinets. I think there might have been some oboes. There were a few bassoon players, and believe it or not, there was one contrabassoon player. So, for the first time ever, I actually got to see what a contrabassoon looks like. It basically is a much larger version of a bassoon, and the tubing of the contrabassoon is a lot more extended compared to the regular bassoon. In addition, the range of the contrabassoon and how it plays is a full octave lower than the regular bassoon. In fact, the contrabassoon pretty much plays the exact same range of notes, much like the tuba and the string bass. But the contrabassoon can actually go down and play even lower notes. The lowest note that I could play on my tuba is a very low, an extremely low E natural. Contrabassoons have the lowest note of an extremely low B flat, aka B flat 0. Whereas a regular bassoon, the lowest note would be a B flat 1. Or sometimes, if there's an extension on regular bassoons, it can go down as low as an A1. Now, the contrabassoon is a very cool instrument. I've heard it in some films, like I know it was prominently featured in the 1953 Disney animated classic Peter Pan when Tick-Tock the crocodile started appearing on the screen to frighten Captain Hook. I've also heard the contrabassoon on television shows as well, like the Flintstones, especially the early seasons of the Flintstones, like in season 1. And the Flintstones also prominently featured tuba, as one of the main instruments in the show, mainly to represent the character Fred Flintstone. So yeah, I've actually got to see a contrabassoon for the very first time back in August when I went to a music festival. And then in September, after a 2-month break from being in the orchestra that I've attended, we did rehearsal for an opera show. And I had fun playing tuba on that. The show would take place in October. The show happened in October, I should say. And in that show, there was an instrument that I've never seen before that another player, who was actually the composer of the orchestra, he played something called a contrabass clarinet. It looks similar to a contrabassoon, but kind of different. The color of it is more black, whereas with contrabassoons, it's more of a maroon red color. And the sound is different too. And unlike the contrabassoon, which has double reeds, the contrabass clarinet has a single reed. I've heard the contrabass clarinet on some television shows as well. I've heard it on Sesame Street when Mr. Snuffleupagus appeared on occasion. Because, as the description suggests, the contrabass clarinet does sound like a very big elephant. So that player played it. Well, I played the tuba, and I actually do have a picture of me and the player, with me holding my tuba and the player holding his contrabass clarinet in the same picture, in black and white. This is what it looks like, if you're curious. And then in December, and you know what? Actually, from October to early December, we have done rehearsal for the Nutcracker show for the orchestra that I've attended, and played tuba for that show. Unlike last year, which I couldn't attend the Saturday night show because my mom was very exhausted, we actually split this year. My mom took me to the Saturday afternoon show and then took me back home, and then my dad took me right back to the theater to take me to the evening one, and he watched the evening show while my mom watched the afternoon one. And then as for Sunday, my mom watched both shows, and they went back to the same theater where the show took place. And I played the tuba for the Nutcracker show. And that was really cool. And I should also mention that in the first year that I've attended in the orchestra, which was 2024, and throughout most of 2025, I have not seen a single bassoon player in the orchestra, because the older bassoon player unfortunately passed on. But then beginning in September 2025, when I got back to doing shows with the orchestra that I've attended, and that's when I saw a new bassoon player. And unlike the older player, who was a male bassoon player, the newer one is a female bassoon player. And funnily enough, when I was in high school, one time I actually did blow into a bassoon once. And let me tell you, while it was a great instrument and I've heard it in lots of television shows like the Flintstones and Jetsons and even Dragon Tales, it was not a fun experience to play. It was the most awkward musical instrument I've ever encountered. Aside from playing just one single note, only one note that I could play off of that instrument, there was literally nothing that I could do with that thing because I am not familiar with musical instruments in the woodwind section, especially those that have reeds. Even when I played the clarinet one time, it was tricky. And I couldn't even blow the flute either. This just goes to show you that I'm not really great with woodwind instruments. The only instrument that I could play that was a woodwind instrument was a recorder, but that was about it. But I'm much better at brass instruments, especially the tuba, because that was the longest. Because the tuba was the brass instrument that I played for the longest time, more than any other brass instrument. And as I've said before, there were other brass instruments I played. I played the baritone horn in 7th grade and throughout 8th grade when I alternated with the tuba on a couple of days. And I even played the trumpet when I was in 6th grade. And when I was in 11th grade, I had 2 band classes. One was symphonic band that I played the tuba in, and the other was wind ensemble, which I've actually played the euphonium. And if you want to know what a euphonium is, it's like a miniature tuba that plays in tenor range instead of bass range. And it plays the same range of notes as the trombone. That's what the euphonium does. And it plays a full octave above the tuba. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the musical recap. I'll see you later.